Okay, I want to go ahead and give you the answer key for pages 5 and 9 through 12 in your packet. So here, they had 100 students. Now, the catch on this is you cannot compare information if you have not related them to percentages. So in this case here, you had to have turned in these values to the percentages based on there being 48 males, 52 females. So that's what I did. I did my fractions so I could do that. Then, to draw your pictures here, you had to do them, of course, put them in percents, show them the male and the females. Don't think you had to show this total, but I also labeled it with this key here. I did a color for every single one of those sections. Now, and you could do different ones, pictures for this. You could have also done a side-by-side bar graph. Compare male-female in the 3 different sections. Side-by-side, bar graph as well. But I can tell, you can see that these are different size amounts. So therefore, you can say that, and this is what I did here in my little answer down here, write a few sentences summarizing what the display reveals about the association. Gender and job experience are not independent. The fact that you are a male or female affects the rate at which you have job experience. For example, now let me tell you something about this for example, and this is a big deal. You had to give a numerical value for all 3 categories to get full credit. So that is something that I learned by going through this. You had to say, for example, females are more likely to have never had a part-time job than males, such as that it's like 59.6% to 43.8%. Then you had to give a numerical and specific statement about the second category. That you said males were more likely to have had a part-time job during the summer only than females, 31.3% to 25%. And then you had to make a statement about the third category. Males also were more likely to have had a part-time job, but not only during the summer, at 25% to 15.4%. So to get full credit, all 3 categories had to have been discussed with a sentence in your description. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that you touched on all of that required information. Now, let's take a look at 9 through 12. We had done numbers 1 and 2 in class together, so we'll go on over to the third one. The third one about employment. Again, the questions seem to be, how do I know which way the arrows go? Well, which thing is employment determining your phone status? If that's the case, then start your arrows at the employment and go to the other direction. And when you end up down here, these numbers are your denominators. Okay, so that means I did the 179 over 194, 15 over 194. This is 194 over 194, and so on. Okay, so that's how you know. So these are, I can see that these numbers, then I compare this conditional to marginal. Okay, so here is my conditional. Here's my conditional, and that's what I'm comparing to this marginal. And those pretty much are within 1 percentage point of each other. So it appears to be independent. Of course, it is in this realm also. These conditionals are within 1 percentage point of that marginal. So the fact that you do or do not have a job does not change the rate at which you have a cell phone. So they were independent. Okay, here is the problem about the class that you were. So the class that you were on the Titanic is affecting the rate at which you survived. So the class is the explanatory variable. So my arrows come from the class and go from left to right. So therefore, these numbers are the denominators. So my denominators should be the 322 and the 277 and the 709 and the 898. And then, of course, the total denominators here, 2206. Okay, so that's how I'm getting my denominator values. So I can tell that the fact that you are a particular class has an effect on whether you survived or not on the Titanic. So they are not independent. Now, if this was an AP question, you would have to give a specific numerical values of every single class. So you would have been making 4 statements, a first, second, third, and crew statement, okay? I only made 1. For example, the first class guests survived at a much higher rate than the overall survival rate on the Titanic, 63% versus 32%. All right, and here's our body image problem. So male and female is the driver for this, the explanatory variable. So my arrows come from the gender. My arrows come from the gender. So that makes these 760, 440, and 1200 the denominators of the fractions. So see, here's my fractions of my denominators for female 760. My denominators for male were 440, and my denominators for overall were the 1200. So I can tell, then I'm comparing conditional to overall. So let's see. This doesn't make sense to be like the marginal because those are just 100%. So I'm thinking I'm comparing these two numbers here. This is my conditional. Okay, so I'm comparing these numbers side by side to this overall right here. So there's my marginal 731. And so I can tell that I've got this going on for males and females, and I'm comparing that to 71.3%. And so those are definitely more than 1 percentage point off if I compare conditional to marginal. So that's not independent. The fact that you are a male or female affects your body image. For example, males are more likely to think that they are underweight than underweight overall, 17% versus 9%. So I guess I was comparing this one here, 17% versus this 9%. All right, and then one last one, and this is very interesting. I find that, and I'm sure that insurance companies would be very interested to see if you are released on time or if you're released early from the hospital. Does that affect you having to come back and be rehospitalized? That's definitely a money study to see if they can let you go early and not have that repercussion of you coming back. My denominators will be the 4619, the 5291, and the 9919. So what happened was when I compared my conditional to the marginal, they were within 1 percentage point. And I compared the conditional to the marginal, they were within 1 percentage point. So that's independent. The fact that you were discharged from the hospital early or not does not affect the rate at which you get rehospitalized. So that was amazing. And therefore, insurance company would say, woohoo, definitely, this is good news. Let's get these people out as soon as possible, because that way we can save money. And it doesn't, and according to this study, it does not affect the rate at which you are rehospitalized. So I'm just going to leave this one last little summary with you to determine if the variables are independent. Then you would say that there is no association and no relationship. If they are not independent, then there is an association and there is a relationship. So you can remember those summaries there. And the fact, the independent, the fact that you are one thing does not change the rate. So we know that this independent, it does not change the rate. All right, so there's your pages 5 and 9 through 12 key.